Hello, my name is Francis Fox. I am a trained military mind control victim. I was trained in all the psychic skills. I was put in the program before I was born. I was literally bred for this program in the US military. It was developed in Europe, in Germany after the Second World War ended, and I guess the United States, England, and the Soviet Union, even though those England and Soviet Union, I don't know anything personally about what it is that they did, but the American government went after the programs that the Germans had having to do with mind expansion, creating a perfect human being, a super soldier, dot, 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 dot. And my father was Cuban. He was enlisted in the US military when the story goes that he was in jail in New York. Who knows what he did? Made it a glamorous story, and he was solicited, recruited by the U.S. military, made a soldier, and sent to Germany. And my mother was a German woman who was um, of a family that was supposed to produce a child that would be very gifted, and that child was supposed to be me. I do not have access to my personal history because the government controls that. So if anybody finds out that that statement I just made is inaccurate, please inform me. Actually, if you find out anything about me that I'm not supposed to know, please inform me. I haven't actually been doing these chats for the last 6 days, which is shocking to me, but I know it has to do with programming is still getting used on me for me not to share what it is that I see with remote viewing. So I'm here regardless. I don't want to be here, but when they give you those kind of programmings, your natural instincts get overwhelmed by the commands, by the wishes and the intentions of other people. It's not easy being a military mind control victim in a country that has not dealt with this. I'm not sure that any country has dealt with it, but let me explain to you how important it is to deal with it. We had 300,000 missing children under Biden. And yes, every once in a while people would throw that number out, but basically nothing was done about it. And that number that should have had people without sleep, everybody was fine. Oh my God, look at this. And then they would let it go. We checked, me and my followers, because I wanted to understand how could 300,000 children go missing? No, how could 300,000 children go missing and there not being hysteria in Central and Latin America and in the United States? And there wasn't, and there isn't. And what I found is that people who are much more savvy than all of you that are listening know how to do black magic on entire populations. And the bad ETs do it on the entire planet, like suicide viruses that get thrown at the planet, I would say every couple of years. And people all of a sudden start to think about killing themselves when they wouldn't have done that if that programming had not been thrown at the population of planet Earth. But going back to the 300,000 children, what I did was I went and checked, how do they do this? How do they make people forget? And it's called El Velo del Olvido, the veil of forgetfulness. And it's been known throughout history. They also call it cloaking, Cloacking, to put a cloak on. I knew there was cloaking, but I did not know that you could do it on issues this large. Yes, they can do it. They're doing it. It's still done. The Vatican, they're experts at it. The people that are really, really in control of this planet, that are in the dark side, know how to pay people, I guess, to do this, because I doubt that they do it themselves. In the Vatican, they would. But power players that are very wealthy, generally, because I was associated, because I got a contract several years ago having to do with mining, I'm familiar because of everything that went on. That the people that are in the nature of that business, I'm going to say it, they have to understand about magic or they cannot be in that business and succeed. They can't stay because those are the weapons. There are other weapons, I imagine, but the biggest weapon is mind control through magic. So then we have also the issues in Minnesota. How could that be? And then, of course, it's popping up in the rest of the country. How can that be? I'm going to use the word, is the United States that stupid? Are that many people in the United States that stupid? No. The cloaking that goes on um, is extensive. It's extensive. I've always told my clients and my friends, if you have a problem and you try to take care of it and you can't find a way to take care of it and there's like something unusual going on, you should suspect black magic. So if you are not asking yourself, you Americans, if you're not asking yourself, how did we let this happen to us? And really, really be willing to look into the mirror, you're going to find that you're going to say, we must have been asleep. But then you don't like the whole woke thing. I don't either. But yes, you were asleep, but you were put to sleep. And then let's go to Erica Kirk. I did a sketch of her a couple months ago. And I don't know to what extent I was totally open. I don't lie. I don't know, but I don't know to what extent I was totally open. But she's obviously a mind control victim who has been positioned. And she ended up being the mate of somebody extremely powerful in American history, because he will go down in history, her husband, Charlie Kirk. So somebody said on the internet that she was his handler. What does that mean? That she was programmed to seduce him, get him to marry her, and then from there, she has to report back to her control, which is the people you should be looking for. Let me say that if you want, because another mind control victim, Kathy O'Brien, who appears to be a really, really nice person, um, certainly much sweeter than I am, but a really nice person, she said that we should have compassion for Erica Kirk. I absolutely do. But she's not her. Her consciousness is not there. See how the light keeps changing as I'm speaking? She's not there. If you literally want to help her, this is the mantra that you can do for her, which is the bottom line mantra for all military mind control victims, cult victims. And the mantra is, even though I'm ashamed, I love and accept myself. Even though I'm ashamed, I love and accept myself. Why that mantra? I've done 30 years of therapy. So when somebody says, well, I don't know about Frances because she's a, yes, but I've done 30 years of therapy. I have several books out on what it is that I've discovered. And I haven't put out a mini book for mind control victims because I didn't have enough content for it, but I think I can do it now. For Erica Kirk, because we should have compassion for her, except that's not her. She's not in that body. She's not in that body. But for her, wherever her soul is, the mantra is, even though I'm ashamed, I love and accept myself. Why that mantra? It's the biggest hold that controls mind control victims. If they wake up in the middle of the mess, such as I did in the 90s, how do you deal with the fact that you did things that anybody would consider god awful and that you would not do if you had a choice? That shame can close that veil again so that you don't remember stuff because you don't want to remember because it's too painful. For some reason, I went in the 90s. I said to my therapist, I need to deal with this stuff that I did. And okay, fine, let's deal with that. And they said, but you were a victim, Frances. I said, yes, I know I was a victim, but guess what? I can't live with it, which is the problem. The mind control victim can't live with what they realize if they wake up at any point or they wake up several times. They can't live with what they did. So they go back to sleep again. So the thing that has to be purified for mind control victims is their shame for what they did. Not their fault, but the shame throws them back into line and back into obedience, da 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 da. So if you want to help her, you repeat those words in silence and you expel the breath through your mouth, even though she's ashamed. I love and accept myself. Because if she wakes up, how is it tolerable for a human being to wake up to the level of anger and hatred and directed at her now, but also looking at herself and look what I've done? Who knows? She may have helped set up the murder of her husband. And the fact that she was his handler does not mean he didn't love her. And she did not love him. And that's another thing, as I say not often enough, there was a lot of love having in the mind control program. It didn't all get nixed out. It certainly got really messed up. Really, really messed up. So Erica Kirk, that's the mantra you can do to help her. And then you all, including you, Trump, need to be willing to say, my God, I didn't catch that. No, you're not going to catch it. It's not until you're really willing to look at the whole thing and you understand human consciousness and you understand human energy bodies, because the body you're seeing, the physical body is Erica, but the energy bodies that are inserted inside in her assemblage of bodies, it's not her. Like when somebody says the devil made me do it. Yes, it was their physical body, but they didn't do it. And they're accurate. And what are you going to do about the laws about that? I don't know. But you might want to get on very quickly onto that, because there are tens of thousands of mind control victims. And a lot of us, we were taken to an incredibly high level of intelligence and of skills. They were looking for human potential, superpowers, all the rest of that. So you're looking at highly skilled people that can be directed, like the Manchurian Candidate, to whatever. And the people that are directing are very intelligent, savvy, wise, knowledgeable, and with zero ethics. The number one law on planet Earth that God, for this setup that God set up, the number one law is free will. Every human being can even do bad stuff. It's their right. That's the whole thing with choice. It's your right to do that. It doesn't mean you're going to end up in a good place. It doesn't mean you're going to get supported, but it is absolutely your right to do that. So it's very complicated. So do the mantra for Erica, and I will give you just a brief description of what happened the day that I realized that the person that I thought was my best friend was my handler. I remember because she was telling me that there would be a changing of the guard, but she was not referring to herself, but yes, she was. And she said that from there forward, and this was 15 years ago, maybe, she said that there would be more electronic controls, the frequencies that all of you guys ignore or don't want the public to know about, how controlled we are with frequencies. And I got suspicious. I guess I was waking up a lot more than I had been until then. And I remember she wanted me to do something, and my instincts were already kicking in, and I said, why on earth would I do that? That's not something I want to do. And it wasn't anything bad. I think she wanted me to move to California. I think it was when she wanted me to move to California, because something about doing a movie. um, and I went, why would I do that? I don't want to do that. And we went to the parking lot and we were kind of arguing, not really arguing, but I remember I turned around and I looked at her, and her face literally came apart like a puzzle, but the pieces were being pulled apart. It wasn't her. Behind her face was another being. I was in shock and I just kept walking, got in my car and left. And I haven't really discussed that ever, but it was not, this was not her. She actually had a lot of affection for me and I had a lot of affection for her, but she was a robot and so was I. I was a robot trying to get control of myself when there were massive amount of people and organizations that did not want me to be in charge of myself. Continuing on, Minnesota. Yes, there's black magic. Yes, there's the veil of forgetfulness. Um, I think the work that was done in terms of magic was not done in this country. And again, I think I said it the last time, you should go to that country and ask for the most powerful, and you will probably be able to find the people. But the point of the matter is, we need to be able to identify, you need to identify the root cause of things. And when you can do that, it's so much easier to deal with the root cause and take care of that rather than dealing with all the symptoms. So we have a root cause of total disorder in the United States. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen to other countries. It does. The contract I got for mining was not in this country. But that disorder, the root cause at the level of disorder that was allowed to go on, the root cause is black magic. It's not that somebody's from Somalia and that they are thieves. Those are part of the puzzle. But if you stop Somalia and you stop thieves, you still have the bottom line issue, which is things can be done and extended. The wool can be pulled over people's eyes via magic. Remember that I've told you that my job is to teach white magic because black magic works. It works. But why can't we learn from that? And we can, which is what I'm doing. So I have several books already published, which nobody is buying because they have done the veil of forgetfulness on everything that I do. Okay, continuing on. I am getting a little bit nervous because we're in January and I live in Florida, and Florida has an issue of hurricanes. What am I nervous about? I'm not nervous about myself. I'm nervous about the fact that there is a jail that holds illegal aliens in Florida in the Everglades. The Everglades does not do well with hurricanes, but it doesn't really matter because there's nobody there. Well, you know what? There's a jail there now. For some reason, and I'm sure it's my psychic abilities, is saying this needs to be dealt with. This can be a PR nightmare if a hurricane comes and something happens to that jail. It's going to be a PR nightmare of how these illegals were trapped and Trump should not have done it. Okay, so what do you do about hurricanes? Well, you know what? There are people on the planet that know how to take care of that. And I have suggested, I have asked, I have begged that we bring in, under my supervision, because I know people, tantric monks that I would be in charge of, so that they would get pointed in the right direction, that they would come to this property that happens to belong to my handler, where he did so much black magic there that it opened a portal, which is what he wanted. Because in the portals, you can get magical happenings, good and bad. If you don't have things under control, you can have what happens in Jerusalem. Jerusalem has, I think, the original portal on planet Earth. You can have bad stuff and good stuff there. You have the three major religions, or three of the biggest religions on the planet were started there. That's the good stuff, and then you have all the wars. That's the bad stuff. Well, this property in Miami has a portal, and I want to bring in those monks. I cannot do this on my own. They need visas. They need permission. We need money to set this up. I expect for that property to be turned over to me in compensation for what my handler did. I think his family is going to beg me to take that property. So those monks, their job would be to keep, because there's a portal there, to keep that portal, either close it if that's what their opinion is, or keep it operational and keep South Florida safe from hurricanes. That would be their job. It is not going to go well if we get a hurricane. The bad guys that know how to handle black magic also know how to weaponize catastrophes like hurricanes. That's why every once in a while you will see an eye or an evil face in the configurations of hurricanes. So I'm not putting it out there again. I have the solution and you don't even know what the problem is. I understand, so it doesn't feel important. But that's what my training is. And that's why the bad guys can get away with so much bad stuff, because they know all angles and they see the stuff. As my husband used to say, before it's coming back down the pike, they already see it because they have people like me. It's coming down the pike. Let's get it taken care of. But it's not just Buddhist monks, it's tantric Buddhist monks that I would be in charge of, because I can see what it is that's coming down the pike. Please, Trump, help me to get this done. Okay. Okay. Did you know that Maduro, one of his allies or supporters, was a Jesuit? Did you know that? You know already that I have seen that the Vatican wants to move in very heavily into Venezuela, and not in their robes, but in business suits. But I've been talking about this for a month. One of the biggest issues for Venezuela was going to be the Vatican, the Red Cross, and I don't remember. There were three things that I said would be the issue: the Vatican, Red Cross, and I don't know what. So Red Cross needs to be completely canceled out. Completely canceled out. Red Cross is a branch of weaponized U.S. intelligence. Just cancel them out. I mean, you can take them out at dawn and shoot them, or you can simply take away all their money, because they are not a legitimate organization. And they are an enemy of stability in Venezuela. Got it? So Maduro, Jesuit friend, weird. No, the Jesuits are extremely bright. And they're also very charming, and they also do black magic. So no, it's not so strange. Not so strange. Okay, the next place that we need to send that fabulous young man that was able to document everything in Minnesota, the next place we need to send him is to that hospital in Miami where they were doing satanic rituals on me, a hospital that is connected to Operation Peter Pan, the biggest sex trafficking event until that point, which was 61. I don't remember the year. I really should look it up. I was there in the Everglades. Everglades. I was there in the Everglades um, during that operation. I was 12 years old, and it was a Vatican CIA operation. So they are all over Miami. And if you're going to pick everybody up in Miami, you have to pick them up. um, so they have this very wonderful hospital in Miami on the water near Grovile. And the Cuban mafia, or maybe the Vatican also at that point, I don't know, were doing a ritual to kind of eliminate me. They used a dead body. I've said this before. They cut it open head to toe, and they inserted pictures of me, but one would be straight up and the other one would be upside down. So I would be totally confused. Um, and when I went in with my group 2 or 3 times, it was totally connected. That was authorized. That was an intention of the Vatican. And this is not unusual. I'm not the only one saying it. They think there's a cardinal out there saying it now in terms of doing satanic rituals. This is right here. But that's not the point, because I already said that before. The number 3 cause of deaths in the United States is medical errors. Okay. So we got a problem in the hospitals. But I don't think that is the biggest issue going on in hospitals. I think the biggest issue is organ harvesting and killing people off because they thought the person was going to die, and it turns out the person is not dying, and but they need that organ because they pre-sold it. I think this is going on across the country. Why am I saying this now? Because when I had my whole group through remote viewing go into the Vatican, go into this hospital in Miami, and then we ended up in the Vatican that has dungeons underneath the Vatican with hallways, and they have different rooms where they have that are assigned to different leaders in the world. Trump has a room. Nancy Pelosi has a room where they work on her. I'm sure she contributes a couple $1 million a year to them because of that room where they do all sorts of stuff to her. And there's a room there in which they have some poor soul's body where they're working on me. So the trick of the matter is that's how we ended up with the whole Vatican thing, was because of what was being done to me, and then we tracked it. The point of the matter is there's more and more people talking about in the hospitals they need for the patient to die. Well, why would they need for the patients to die? That's going to look terrible in their track record. They don't really care about their track record about keeping you healthy, because if they wanted to keep you healthy, most of the stuff they do, they wouldn't do. They pre-sold your organs. Pre-sold. Now, 30 years ago, I told my daughter, listen to me carefully. I never want to go to a hospital. It doesn't matter what happens to me. You bring me home, you call all my friends that do healings, and if between all of them they are not able to fix me, it's my time to go. But do not take me to a hospital because I know too much. I don't want to be there. Now, I didn't take into consideration when I was saying that they would probably knock me off in a hospital, or they would have three men that are from the intelligence community checking out everything that's happening, such as happened when I had my tubes tied and what happened when I had spinal cord surgery. I don't need that. I don't want that. But I would have to say that all of you need to start saying, why don't we try and get this fixed without going to a hospital? Third cause of death in the United States years ago was the third cause of death was medical errors. I think it's the second or the first right now. There's something going on, or there's a lot of things going on. And one of them is the organ harvesting. So why don't we try to get a grip on that before it gets so out of control and we are so humiliated by how did we not know this, and where we don't really feel that we should be going to a hospital because we may have a problem, but at least we're alive. And if you go to a hospital, you may not end up alive, or you may not end up who you were before you got there. So I think beating the bushes is very important, having to do with that. It feels like a tsunami that's going to hit us, and many of us are going to be, we're already looking at our medical doctors and saying, why the hell should I trust you? What was your stance with the virus? And put on top of that, why the hell should I trust you and go to the hospital because of what's going on in hospitals? Now, they have not being told not to say that. Now, how do you get a grip on that? It's really easy. I told you this first time I had this chat. You go ahead and you start interviewing the guys that run the ambulances and that they run the picking up of the sick people, etc. The guys that are always hanging around the parking lot in hospitals, looking, the taxi guys. Those guys, they know. I'm not saying every single one of them know. I'm not saying you should go after them because they did something wrong. Not at all. But you will be able to find the threads and start to pull them. The morgue is where they do the stuff. Or maybe they have other places that they do the morgue. In this case where we found me, what they were trying to transfer my energy to this dead body where they were placing the pictures upside down, and who knows what else they were doing. So we need to start beating the bushes on that so that this can be stopped. Because honestly, if one of you gets sick, Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? The medical system in this country is a tragedy. And I don't know if it's the veil of forgetfulness or what, but decades ago, I would say, I don't get it. You go to a doctor, you have cancer, and the doctor says they're not going to really be able to help you. And you come back and you say, he's not going to really be able to I have really advanced, he's going to try, but I really like the doctor. And everybody comes and says they really love their doctor. It's a little bit weird. That is a little bit weird. No, that's a lot weird. I have supposedly, I don't know if I still classify a degenerative disc disease. I was supposed to be in a wheelchair 30, 40 years ago. We had emergency surgery to keep me out of a wheelchair. A year later, the doctor said I was going to be in a wheelchair, that he didn't know how I was still standing. So what I did was I never went back to that doctor. I'm not in a wheelchair. Now, I'm not going to go skiing, and I'm not going to do any kind of sport that's going to put any to where this issue, degenerative disc disease, would put me in danger, because that would be dumb. But I am not in a wheelchair. I'm never going to end up in a wheelchair. Well, that doctor said that was it. That was it. No, it's not it. You create your own reality. If you're sick, that sickness is an indicator of an issue that you have, spiritual, emotional, that's not resolved. What was my issue? Looking back now, I totally understand. What is your back? Your back is support. It supports your body. I didn't have any support. I still don't have any support from what I can see from where I'm sitting hiding in an apartment for the last year and a half. Support. You get cancer, that organ or that place in your body where you got that disease, you got cancer, is a map to the issue you need to deal with. And guess what? When you deal with the issue, you no longer have the issue. Your cancer doesn't come back. So, medicine in this country is a tragedy, and a lot of it can continue because of our arrogance that we have a modern medical system. You know what? We have the worst medical system of 17 most developed nations. We have the worst medical system. It's been several years in a row that we've won that position, and we are the most expensive medical system. Now, somebody did something to where people think, oh my God, I'm sick in the United States. If I go to a hospital, they'll take care of me. No, they're liable to harvest your organs before you're ready to go. And I want to say one last thing. I had a client that called me several years ago, and her mother was in intensive care. And I said, she said, please do whatever. Okay, so I went ahead and I gave the woman a healing. Well, it turned out that intensive care units have spiritual mafias that are installed there, not by any regular human being. Their job is to whisper in the ear of the person who's in intensive care that they want to die, that they're going to die, that they need to die. Da, 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 like compulsive thoughts, except it's not the person's. It is a spiritual mafia of spirits that is their job. This might have been 5, 6, 8 years ago. After that, some medical doctor came out. He and his partner, they work intensive care, and they said, we have to say something that we don't want to say. People, young people, are going into intensive care, and they're coming out with dementia. A significant number of young people going in because of whatever, and they come out with dementia, but they didn't go in with a mental issue. Went in with a physical body issue. He said, we don't know what's going on, but we need to get this figured out. Well, the figuring out is there is a mafia there that is in the other dimensions that already have a plan, which is to take the will to live out of that person in intensive care to help escort their consciousness out. And then you have people in their 30s, 40s coming out with dementia, going in fine and coming out with dementia. If you don't, the first thing Jesus Christ was to cast out spirits. The only medical system that does not take the root cause of issues into consideration is modern medicine, which is basically American medicine. Can we take care of that? Maybe like slip it in between bringing in the tantric monks and shaking the bushes, kicking the bushes, beating the bushes, having to do with organ harvesting. A lot of what I'm suggesting is prevention. Let's go to the map, and then we're finished. Here's the map of the United States. We have the pyramids in the Gulf of Mexico, which is great. They're orange, which is great. That's a sacred color. We have Mexico is resentful but grateful. Well, that makes sense. If you have self-esteem issues, it's not good to be saved because then you feel more like a piece of garbage. Mexico astrologically is Virgo, and Virgos have self-esteem issues because Virgos think that perfection exists and it doesn't. So Mexicans have huge self-esteem issues, Mr. Trump. So when you're dealing with Mexicans or you're dealing with the president, you might want to remember that. It comes with the territory, it comes with being a Virgo. She's not a Virgo. I don't remember her sign, but the country is. Okay. We have the pink and blue frequency, which is great. I could not draw the Merkaba, which would have been galactic protection. I couldn't. It's just not there. There's a lot of stuff going on. But we do have that usual hot spot. But in this case, I got a little extra information that they're going to generate or try to generate a false flag from that hot spot. So somebody's not paying enough attention to my maps because this is the third or fourth time this has come out. But in this case, maybe we should put that like at the top of the list. We don't need a false flag. And I don't see the Florida being green or the Texas. I sketch what I get. And then I could kind of look if there's something I want. But if it's not there, it's just not there. Let's do Venezuela, which is the hot topic of the new year. Venezuela does not have a frequency that would come up here. A little bit of a problem. I think there's a lot of divisions. On the right, you have this red line because Guyana is supposed to have a tremendous amount of oil. And there's a battle between Venezuela and Guyana because Venezuela says that that piece where that red is belongs to Venezuela. Months ago, I told my followers that are Venezuelan, one of the things that can take you down is greed, Greed. If you want what Guyana has, because at some point you think it belonged to you or it did, that may end up taking down the whole package. So let that go. You have enough riches. But that's all red, which means there's a lot of energy there. You have spiraling counterclockwise in the bottom part of Venezuela, which is where there was a lot of mining, which is what caused the previous demise of the Venezuela vibration. You have anger there. And there were some issues there with some military maneuvers. So there's something going on there. Same thing with Caracas, which is the capital, which is where Maduro was. But then a part of Venezuela that I identified as not being in such great shape is anchoring a really good energy, which is the northwest. Not quite sure what's there, but because this is what it is that that I got. Again, that red section with Guyana says a potential for violence. Okay, so we have finished, and I'll try not to. It's not been easy going through the holidays the way I had to go through the holidays. It's not very easy not knowing what the heck's going on in my life. So I haven't been here for 6 or 7 days. I'll try to be here more frequently for those of you that really want this extra information, okay? And thank you for joining me, and thank you for listening. Let's get those monks over here. Let's get more people to go into beating the bushes having to do with hospitals, because everybody at some point needs, even if you're going to have a baby, you need to be able to go into, oh, and they really like baby bodies for satanic rituals. This is not a good thing. So let's get moving on all that stuff, okay? And more, even more than that, step back, widen your lens. Understand that magic has been a part of every civilization on planet Earth, and it is a major part of what the galactics know and can do. Let's try to get educated on that so that we can defend ourselves and our family and our country, etc. Okay? Thank you. Thank you for joining me. Bye.